I grew up as a child raised on 70s TV, and there used to be this great PSA that ran during my favorite shows for a thing called Reading is Fundamental, Riff. Well, that could be the headline of our incredible story today, but we'd have to recast this guy as a poor city kid.
To a child who doesn't read, the world is a closed book. That's why more than 200 RIF programs help these kids get books for keeps to make them want to read. RIF Incorporated, Box 23444, Washington, D.C.
I guess you have to imagine that the elected GOP officials that are falling in line with Trump's tyranny possess the skills to read, you'd think, right? Well, with one obvious orange exception. Now, in the next few minutes, you're going to see accountability in the face of slothful Republican indolence. While lazy and corpulent GOP leaders are voting lockstep Trump, well, the people that they represent are beginning to revolt. And boy, do we have a great example of that from just last night in Nebraska. You'll see it in a second. It echoes the kind of fun that U.S. Representative Melanie Stansbury recently had with Committee Chair James Comer regarding the important details of a bill that he wrote and sponsored. Pour another cup of coffee for this exercise in legislative F-uppery.
Chairman, as I read it, your bill is giving the congressional authority to the executive to do it without Congress.
No, that's not true.
Can you
You're misinterpreting the bill.
Can you please point us to the language in the bill that retains Congress's authority?
It requires a privileged resolution in Congress.
Can you please point us to the page and the line number that requires congressional consent for reorganization of the federal government?
Yeah.
Where the purpose of that, the long section of the bill, but there.
Sections 908 and 909.
In sections 908 and 909 of Title V.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Section 908 says striking December 31st, 1985. Can you please refer to the language that retains Congress's authority under the United States Constitution to rein in the executive to stop it from eliminating unnecessary duties, reducing federal employees, amending rules and regulations, and eliminating executive departments, agencies, independent establishments, offices, or officers of the executive branch?
You're intentionally misrepresenting the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'm reading the bill and
No.
I'm asking you as the sponsor to point to us where your bill, which you are trying to pass through this committee today, retains the authority of Congress.
It changes the date to 2026.
Boy, that's something else. While it is delightful to see Melanie Stansbury recognize ineptitude from the chair, it's especially sweet when these lazy, Trump-infused flunkies dare to hold a town hall and face the people that they were elected to represent. Last night, the water was rising for Representative Mike Flood as he waded into a town hall of humiliation. It's our featured story. Here it is from Way Too Early on MSNBC.
And in political responses, Republican Congressman Mike Flood of Nebraska faced a fiery crowd yesterday at his town hall. Many of Flood's constituents pressed him on his support for President Trump's sweeping tax and spending bill, which passed last week in the House, and its potential cuts to Medicaid and veteran services. Flood, who is an attorney, was also asked about a provision that would make it harder for judges to enforce contempt rulings for those who defy court orders.
I believe in the rule of law. I've taken an oath as an attorney. I've taken an oath as a state senator. I've taken an oath as a member of Congress, and I support our court system. And I do believe that the federal district courts, when issuing an injunction, should have legal effect. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill.
Okay, next question. Next question.
I am not going to hide the truth. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for that bill. And when I found out that provision was in the bill, I immediately reached out to my Senate counterparts and told them of my concern. And when I return to Washington, I am going to very clearly tell the people in my conference that we cannot support undermining our court system, and we must allow our federal courts to operate and issue injunctions.
Remember what we're talking about here. This was an 1,100-page bill with a 40-some-odd-page manager's amendment that had some key changes in it. A lot of members didn't have time to read it, and yet they still voted on it. It's a complaint that I've heard for years, but constituents now seeing the output and the impact of that.
Well, give Flood credit for showing up, I guess, because most of the GOP runs and hides, and maybe they should, because for all that Trump says and does that's hateful, cruel, distracting, crazy, chaotically inefficient, and let's not forget corrupt, it is the GOP up and down that enables him. They fall in line. He is their leader. And in a deal with the devil that they made for your democracy, your very way of life, he is their eternal soulmate, and they will walk hand in hand with him into history from a time and a place that will never forgive them.
Okay, next question. Next question.